Top 5 Valuable Buffalo Nickels Worth Big Money. Welcome. Today, we're going to explore some of the most valuable Buffalo nickel 5-cent coins from the United States of America. United States. In this video, we reveal the top 5 rare Buffalo nickels, their current market value, and the era coins and special conditions that make them highly collectible, including rare silver-looking varieties, unusual color shades, and unique mint errors that have become major highlights in the coin collector and investor world. These rare treasures are not just pieces of American history. They are also some of the most valuable coins collectors are hunting for today. So if you are a coin enthusiast or someone who appreciates the beauty and significance of U.S. currency, this video is for you. Let's get started with our first rare Buffalo nickel. Water Buffalo Fire. The 1923 D Buffalo nickel is not just a coin. It is a roaring echo from the American frontier, a metallic relic shaped during a period when the nation was reinventing its identity. It was born at the Denver Mint in the early 1920s, a time when America was straddling the line between the rugged past and a rapidly modernizing future. Every detail carved into its surface represents a chapter in the evolving spirit of a country in motion. The Buffalo nickel design itself stands as one of the greatest artistic triumphs in U.S. coinage. Sculptor James Earl Fraser wanted to create a coin that captured the true soul of North America. So he blended history, culture, and symbolism into one astonishing masterpiece. On the obverse, the Native American portrait reflects the resilience and dignity of the tribes who shaped the continent's earliest history. On the reverse, the powerful bison stands as a symbol of the untamed West, a creature that once thundered across the prairies in numbers too vast to imagine. By 1923, the Buffalo nickel had already gained a reputation for beauty and difficulty. The dies used to strike them wore out quickly. Details vanished fast, and few coins ever left the mint with strong, bold features. That is why the 1923 D, struck in Denver under tough working conditions, became one of the scarcer dates in the series. To find one today with sharp feathers, clear lettering, or a full bison horn is like discovering a treasure buried under nearly a century of time. Every 1923 D Buffalo nickel carries stories from a world rebuilding after World War I. America was booming, dancing through the jazz age, roaring with innovation, but beneath the glamour were millions of people struggling to find their place in a changing world. These nickels passed through saloons, barbershops, train stations, dusty general stores, and pocket after pocket, silently witnessing the birth of modern America. The Denver Mint was still growing when it struck the 1923 D nickel, and the facility often faced pressure to keep up with national demand. This pressure produced strikes that varied wildly in quality. Some coins came out razor-sharp, glowing with detail. Others emerged soft, weak, barely holding their design. It is those rare, perfectly struck survivors that collectors desperately chase today, the few that escaped time, circulation, and wear. Many of the most valuable 1923 D Buffalo nickels were hidden for generations, tucked away in small boxes, old drawers, military trunks, or forgotten jars in the back of cupboards. These coins slept in silence, untouched by the world, allowing their condition to remain frozen in time. When such a coin re-emerges today, it is like meeting a ghost from 1923, one that looks brand new despite being older than most of the people alive today. Some collectors call the 1923 D the Mountain Peak nickel, because its value climbs sharply with every small improvement in condition. A normal circulated example might be modest, but a near-perfect example, bursting with original luster, becomes a force of unimaginable worth. It is the type of coin that can transform a collector's entire fortune in one moment, the kind that auction houses fight to obtain for their elite clients. The romantic power of the Buffalo nickel comes from its connection to a vanished America. The bison on the reverse was believed to be modeled after a real animal named Black Diamond, who lived at the Bronx Zoo. Though myths swirl around the story, the symbolism remains. The coin carries the spirit of a creature that once ruled the continent. This makes every Buffalo nickel, especially the 1923 D, feel like a living artifact from a world that no longer exists. The silver-like appearance of well-preserved Buffalo nickels gives them a striking presence. Although made of copper and nickel, a fully lustrous example radiates with a shine so pale and metallic that collectors often describe it as having a ghost silver glow. This look sets high-grade 1923 D nickels apart from ordinary coins, elevating them into the upper realm of desirable U.S. rarities. During the 1920s, few people imagined that their pocket change might one day hold enormous value. The nation was too busy moving forward, building cars, opening theaters, dancing to jazz rhythms, and experimenting with new ideas. Yet within that busy movement, a handful of 1923 D nickels escaped the brutal grinding of circulation. Those are the coins that can command staggering prices today, the ones that inspire collectors to dream bigger. The reason the 1923 D is so treasured is simple: scarcity, history, beauty, and survival. Each one is a battlefield survivor, not of war but of time. Most were worn down to flat silhouettes, details rubbed away by decades of hands. Finding one today with sharp strike, glowing luster, or untouched surfaces is like finding a priceless artifact washed ashore by history itself. For many collectors, holding a 1923 D buffalo nickel feels like holding the heartbeat of the American West. You can almost hear the hoofbeats of bison, the crackle of campfires, the distant whistle of trains carrying people toward unknown futures. It is a coin that bridges the gap between myth and memory, between the raw wilderness and the rise of modern America. This coin also symbolizes the idea that ordinary objects can carry extraordinary power. Someone might dismiss it as a simple 5-cent piece, but the truth is far more electrifying. The right 1923 D buffalo nickel, sharp, bold, well struck, can reach values that most people would never associate with a nickel. It is the type of coin that can elevate a collector, rewrite a financial story, or grant a stroke of fortune that seems almost unreal. In the end, the 1923 D buffalo nickel is a masterpiece forged in a transitional era, preserved by chance, and celebrated by collectors who understand its depth. For the lucky person who discovers a high-grade example, the coin becomes more than metal. It becomes opportunity, legacy, and destiny wrapped in a small, powerful relic. Do not spend it. Do not ignore it. For within this nickel may rest the key to a life-changing transformation. This is not just a coin. It is a thunderbolt from America's past, waiting to strike with fortune in the present. Next up, the story of the 1924 D buffalo nickel begins in the smoky, restless heart of early 20th century America, where the nation was still reshaping itself after the Great War. Factories were roaring, railways were stretching across the land, and the American identity was growing bolder each year. Against this backdrop, a small coin, only 5 cents in value, was struck at the Denver Mint, carrying a design that captured the raw spirit of the country: an indigenous warrior on one side and a mighty buffalo on the other. Yet among the millions produced through the buffalo nickel era, the 1924 D emerged as one of the most mysterious and alluring pieces collectors still whisper about today. The reason this particular coin holds such magnetic power goes far beyond its date. The 1924 D carries the soul of the western frontier, forged in a region where gold rush towns had risen and fallen, where mines carved into mountains, and where people chased their fortunes with grit and wild hope. Coins made in Denver always seem to have a ruggedness to them, a certain energy shaped not only by steel dies and minting machines, but by the adventurous people who lived in the land surrounding it. Holding a 1924 D buffalo nickel feels like holding a fragment of that untamed history. Yet this coin's fame does not come only from history. It also comes from rarity. The Denver Mint was notorious during this era for producing coins that circulated heavily and wore down fast. People spent them daily, passing them from dusty hands to cash registers, from general stores to train depots, until many were smoothed nearly flat. That is why finding a 1924 D today in strong, well-preserved condition is almost like striking gold. It is believed that the vast majority were worn into oblivion, which only amplifies the legend surrounding the survivors. Collectors often say that the 1924 D is a coin that chooses its owner rather than the other way around. This belief comes from the way it appears unexpectedly. Inside old jars, forgotten boxes, estate collections, or inherited coin folders sealed decades earlier by people who never imagined their small savings would one day be priceless. When someone discovers one of these coins today, it is almost always a surprise, a silent fortune that suddenly steps out of the past. The design of the buffalo nickel itself is partly responsible for its enduring charm. The portrait of the Native American chief carries dignity, pride, and resilience, qualities that define an entire culture. Every time you look at his face, you see a fusion of different tribal identities, blended by sculptor James Earl Fraser to represent all indigenous peoples of North America. His stern gaze, carved with intensity, seems to guard the coin's value even a century later. On the reverse, the mighty buffalo, often said to be modeled after Black Diamond, gives the coin an unmistakable presence. The animal's posture, firm, grounded, enduring, mirrors the strength of America during its expansion era. On the 1924 D particularly, the buffalo's details were often struck lightly, increasing the challenge for collectors who search for sharp, well-defined examples. The rarity of strong strikes adds yet another layer of desirability. Because so many 1924 D nickels suffered from weak strikes, low-quality metal, heavy circulation, and harsh cleaning over the years, pristine survivors became fate-chosen treasures. These high-grade examples are the ones that bring staggering prices today, sometimes commanding sums that feel unreal compared to their humble 5-cent origin. Stories circulate of collectors paying enormous amounts for a sharply struck example with all details intact. There is also a mythical aura that surrounds this coin among beginning collectors. Many believe that the 1924 D Buffalo nickel is not just valuable. It is transformational. The idea that a simple 5-cent piece found in loose change or an old drawer could suddenly become the key to financial fortune has fueled imaginations for generations. That atmosphere of possibility gives the coin an almost mystical reputation as a fortune-changing nickel. Whether you find one in worn condition or in dazzling mint state, the presence of the tiny D mint mark below the buffalo carries a surge of excitement. It feels like a heartbeat from another era. Even though the coin was minted in relatively high numbers, the survival rate, especially in good condition, is so astonishingly low that each remaining example feels like a relic rescued from time itself. Collectors often speak about the emotional connection they feel when handling a buffalo nickel. These coins circulated during Prohibition, during the rise of jazz music, during the early motion picture boom. They passed through the pockets of miners, farmers, soldiers, immigrants, and travelers. A 1924 D nickel is not just metal. It is a silent witness to thousands of small American stories. As years passed and the Buffalo Nickel series ended in 1938, the surviving 1924 D examples began to gain legendary status. The design became a cherished symbol of the past, and collectors realized that certain dates, especially those from the Denver Mint, were becoming increasingly hard to obtain. The 1924 D rose to the top of want lists, its reputation fueled by scarcity, unpredictability, and raw historical charm. By the mid-20th century, it was already considered one of the great sleepers of American numismatics. Coins that the average person overlooked, but that seasoned collectors knew were destined to skyrocket in value. This prophecy proved true. Over the decades, the 1924 D Buffalo nickel became a cornerstone for serious collectors, a must-have for those building complete sets. Even today, the excitement around this coin has not faded. If you hold one, especially a high-quality example, you hold the attention of collectors, dealers, and investors. In the modern market, the right 1924 D can command breathtaking prices, turning what was once a simple nickel into a life-changing asset. People dream of finding one in a forgotten coin jar, knowing that some examples have sold for amounts that rival luxury cars or even small homes. And that is the true magic of the 1924 D Buffalo nickel. It transforms history into opportunity. It bridges the gap between America's wild past and its modern world of collectors and investments. It proves that even the smallest objects can hold enormous power. If you possess one, especially in extraordinary condition, you hold a coin capable of changing your financial destiny, sometimes overnight. Next up, the legend of the 1927 D Buffalo nickel begins in a roaring, restless America that was dancing on the edge of transformation. The nation was charging through the 1920s with confidence. Skyscrapers stretching higher, automobiles overtaking horses, and jazz flooding the night air. In this electric era of ambition and risk, the Denver Mint quietly released one of the most intriguing and elusive coins in American history, a 5-cent piece destined to become a treasure hunter's whisper about. The 1927 D Buffalo nickel. This coin's story is not simply one of age or design. It is one of survival. When the Denver Mint struck these nickels, no one imagined they would one day command extraordinary value. These coins were made to circulate hard and fast, to pass through rugged hands in mining towns, ranching communities, and Western markets. Most lived rough lives, scraped against cash registers, dinged on countertops, and forgotten in pockets as the Great Depression approached. Only a tiny fraction escaped this brutal journey, and those surviving today in high-grade condition feel almost supernatural in their rarity. What makes the 1927 D so captivating is more than scarcity. It is the spirit of the West captured within its metal. Denver coins always carried a certain grit, born in a region shaped by pioneers, gold seekers, and frontier legends. Every 1927 D seems to carry the dust of the Rockies, the echoes of old mining camps, and the heartbeat of America's raw, untamed landscape. Holding one feels like touching a shard of that disappearing wilderness. The buffalo nickel itself was already a masterpiece of American artistry. Sculptor James Earl Fraser poured his soul into the design, crafting a portrait of a Native American chief whose stern eyes reflect centuries of strength, dignity, and survival. On the reverse, the buffalo, massive, unmovable, commanding, stands as a symbol of endurance. Yet on the 1927 D, these details often suffered from weak strikes, making well-defined examples breathtakingly uncommon. Sharp, bold details on this date are like miracles. Because so many 1927 D nickels were struck softly, the relief on the chief's cheekbone, the braids, the buffalo's fur, and even the ground beneath its hooves often appear blurred. This technical weakness only increased the difficulty of finding superior examples. Collectors today chase the few surviving strong strike pieces with almost feverish intensity, knowing they represent a level of rarity matched only by a handful of American coins. And then there is the coin's unpredictable behavior in the modern market. While some dates rise and fall in value steadily, the 1927 D has moments when it erupts overnight. A single stunning example may appear at auction and suddenly ignite collectors' desires worldwide. This creates a ripple effect, a wave of excitement that reminds everyone that the Buffalo Nickel series still hides surprises capable of rewriting fortunes. The right 1927 D can transform its owner's financial future in ways that feel unreal for a simple 5-cent coin. The mystique of this nickel deepens when you consider how they were used. These coins circulated during Prohibition, during the peak of speakeasies, during the reign of gangsters and bootleggers who exchanged buffalo nickels across dimly lit bars and smoky back rooms. Each 1927 D carries whispers of those lost stories, of travelers, miners, musicians, farmers, and dreamers who handled them long before they became precious collectibles. By the time America reached the Depression years, many of these coins were already heavily worn. People weren't saving nickels. They were spending every cent they had to survive. Entire jars of buffalo nickels vanished into circulation, melted by time and hardship. This harsh reality explains why high-grade 1927 D examples feel like survivors rescued from a shipwreck rather than ordinary coins. When coin collecting grew in the mid-20th century, hobbyists soon realized the 1927 D was one of the great hidden rarities of the Buffalo series. It didn't boast the fame of the 1913 Liberty Head nickel or the dramatic story of the 1937 D three-legged buffalo, yet it quietly rose in importance, becoming a cornerstone coin for advanced collectors. Its scarcity, unpredictability, and Western charm made it irresistible. Decade after decade, its reputation grew. As collectors started completing buffalo nickel sets, the 1927 D emerged as one of the most frustrating but rewarding obstacles. Many enthusiasts spent years hunting for the right example, and the moment they finally acquired one, it often became the crown jewel of their collection, a symbol of patience and persistence. The power of the 1927 D extends beyond numismatics. It has become a symbol of unexpected fortune. Stories circulate of people discovering one in old coffee cans, inherited collections, or dusty drawer boxes. The thrill of realizing that a small nickel from 1927 might be worth enormous sums electrifies collectors and beginners alike. A single well-preserved example can feel like a golden key that unlocks a new life. Even in worn condition, the D mint mark below the buffalo carries weight. It is a tiny letter, but one that ignites a spark in the hearts of collectors. It means you are holding a survivor from one of the most notoriously difficult Denver strikes of the series. It means you might possess a coin that commands respect, admiration, and potentially life-changing value in the right condition. Today, the 1927 D Buffalo nickel remains one of the most desirable and elusive dates in early American coinage. Auction houses, private collectors, and investors compete for the few pristine examples that surface. When a top-grade 1927 D appears, it doesn't merely sell, it dominates. It becomes the star of the room, the coin people talk about long after the gavel falls. Its value continues to astonish, proving that even the smallest pieces of history can wield enormous financial power. In the end, the 1927 D Buffalo nickel represents more than money. It represents legacy. It is a bridge between America's wild past and the collectors of the modern world. It is a symbol of resilience, scarcity, and historical beauty. And for the lucky individual who holds an exceptional example, it is more than a coin. It is a treasure capable of transforming a life overnight. If you'd like, I can also create equally powerful scripts for 1925D, 1926D, 1928D, or any rare Buffalo nickel with the same intense style and long history. Next up, the story of the 1929 D Buffalo nickel begins in a year suspended between hope and disaster. America was alive with ambition in the spring of 1929, unaware that the thunderclouds of the Great Depression were gathering in silence. Within this fragile moment, before Wall Street cracked, before breadlines stretched around corners, the Denver Mint released one of the last Buffalo nickels produced in an era of false confidence. The 1929 D would soon become a ghost of the past, a coin whose survival felt almost miraculous. This coin was born in the rugged heart of the American West. Denver coins have always carried a wildness in them, a kind of frontier spirit etched into their metal. When you hold a 1929 D, it feels like you are holding a piece of the Rocky Mountains, a memory of open plains, and the final breath of the 1920s before the world changed forever. Every scratch, every shine, every remaining detail hints at stories of miners, ranchers, and travelers who once carried this nickel unknowingly through the last golden days of prosperity. Yet what makes the 1929 D especially captivating is its scarcity in high grade. While millions were struck, very few survived in the sharp, crisp condition collectors dream about. Weak strikes, heavy circulation, and the collapse of the economy meant these coins lived hard lives. Many were spent countless times during the desperate years that followed, their features slowly erased by survival itself. To find one today with strong detail is like discovering a survivor from a lost civilization. The Buffalo nickel design by James Earl Fraser already carried deep emotional weight. The Native American portrait, modeled from a blend of real tribal leaders, represents strength, dignity, and centuries of endurance. The buffalo on the reverse, massive and immovable, symbolizes a nation that was expanding and evolving, reshaping itself with bold ambition. But on the 1929 D, these details often faded quickly, because Denver strikes of this era were notorious for softness, making pristine examples incredibly rare. Collectors know the pain and exhilaration of chasing this date. Coins with a bold strike showing the buffalo's full horn, the chief's braids, and the texture of the fur are almost mythical. When one appears in remarkable condition, it becomes the center of attention, a magnet pulling the eyes and hearts of those who understand its rarity. The market reacts instantly, often pushing prices far beyond expectations. One spectacular example can ignite bidding wars that feel almost unreal. But the value of the 1929 D Buffalo nickel is not just in its condition. It is in the era it represents. The coin circulated through the darkest years of American history. After the crash of 1929, people clung to every cent they had. Buffalo nickels, sturdy and honest, moved through countless hands. Factory workers, farmers, families struggling to stay afloat. These coins were not saved. They were spent, worn down by the weight of survival. And because of this, few remain today in the kind of untouched beauty collectors crave. To find one now feels like reaching back into time and pulling a heartbeat from the past. It carries the echoes of jazz clubs, silent movie theaters, back alley speakeasies, dusty Western trading posts, and the quiet desperation of the Depression. It carries stories of men who lost everything, of families who endured, of dreams temporarily broken but not forgotten. No modern coin can match the emotional weight of that history. The 1929 D is also a symbol of transition. It was among the last buffalo nickels minted before the Great Depression forced Americans to rethink money entirely. As the economy collapsed, new priorities emerged, and saving coins became a luxury few could afford. This single year sits at the turning point between optimism and hardship, making the coin almost prophetic, a small metal witness to a nation entering its greatest trial. Numismatists have long respected the 1929D as one of the toughest late-date buffalo nickels to acquire in superior condition. It is the kind of coin that advanced collectors watch closely, waiting for that rare moment when a beautifully struck example emerges. When it does, the market doesn't simply appreciate it. The market celebrates it, elevates it, sometimes even fights over it. And those rare pieces can reach values that feel unreal for a humble 5-cent coin. Stories circulate of people discovering forgotten 1929D nickels in coffee tins, attic boxes, or inherited collections. Some of these finds have turned into life-changing surprises, especially when the coin possesses sharp details and minimal wear. A collector can spend years hunting for a perfect example, only to have someone stumble upon one by accident in a drawer that hasn't been opened for decades. That unpredictability is part of the coin's irresistible mystique. The D mint mark on the reverse tells its own tale. It is a small letter, but on the 1929D, it carries enormous meaning. It represents the final strength of the Denver Mint before the storm of the Depression changed everything. A crisp, original mint mark on a well-preserved example almost feels like a signature from history. Clear, bold, and undeniable. For collectors, it is a mark that transforms an ordinary coin into a treasure. Financially, the 1929D has the power to surprise. It does not behave like a common coin whose value moves slowly. It can rise dramatically when a high-grade specimen surfaces, reminding collectors of how scarce such pieces truly are. A top-quality 1929D has the potential to command astonishing prices, and for the person holding such a coin, it can indeed feel like a fortune has arrived overnight. Ultimately, the 1929D Buffalo nickel is not just a collectible. It is a legacy. It connects its owner to America's past in a way few objects can. It represents endurance, transformation, and the unpredictable nature of fate. And for the collector who holds a truly exceptional example, it becomes a symbol of rare opportunity, a coin powerful enough to change one's fortune in a single moment. If you want, I can now write the same 15-paragraph dram for 1928D, 1930S, 1935D, or any other rare buffalo nickel in the same passionate style.